Yes, sir.
Okay. Listen, first of all, what we need to know, the ancient part. Okay, this is our first discussion. Ancient part. Ancient part of Indian history. Now, ancient part is Indian history is very much confusing because we need to know two type of historical period at first. First of all, proto-historic and prehistoric. What I said, prehistoric, 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 and proto-historic. That would make your concept clear. What is prehistoric? Any idea, beta? Anyone? Okay,
Uh,
please tell me.
I think from the later, no, from early man, that is called PhD, the Stone Age and Iron Age. That
Actually, it is based on the inscription writing. You know the inscription? Inscription means the way they used to live. They used to depict it by writing it in the stone, something like that. That is called inscription. Inscription. So when man or men, whatever you may call it, human, it should be better. When human does not know the how to write inscription, that period is called as prehistoric period. When the inscription is not come to be played, come to play its act, it is known as prehistoric period. And the history, we are getting information from inscription, but after the invention of inscription, that period is come to be known as proto-history. Is it clear to all? What is inscription? Inscription means type of writing. As we in today's modern history, modern part of we used to write it on the page or wall, whatever it is. That is a part of proto-history. So proto-historic means when man used to inscript or inscription started inscription. That part is known as proto-historic. And when they did not know about it, about the inscription, how to write something, how to draw something, that part is known as prehistory. Okay, is it clear now? Please tell me out.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
Yes, sir.
Indian history, what we are learning actually Indian history. So Indian history basically starting from Mehergarh Savyata, Mehergarh civilization, what we call Mehergarh civilization, which is some historian used to say that Mehergarh civilization is completely different civilization from Harappa civilization, and some used to say that Mehergarh civilization is a prehistoric part of Harappa civilization. So apart from that, Mehergarh Savyata, Mehergarh civilization, which we used to call that, flourished at the time of 7000 BC to 5000 BC. That is Mehergarh civilization. First, you need to know about it. Mehergarh civilization flourished during the time of 7000 BC to 5000 BC. But unfortunately, we do not have any clear vision about that civilization. It was the earliest civilization of Indian part, but we do not have any resources, whatever you may call it. So what we learned from our, if you remember in our syllabus during the time of Madhyamik or whatever 10th standard, it would come what we used to study about Harappa civilization, not Mehergarh civilization, because we have clear vision or something we know about our earliest civilization is started from Harappa civilization. But it is not that from Harappa civilization our civilization was started, but our civilization was started from the very beginning. It means from 7000 BC to 5000 BC around, the civilization was already started. But unfortunately, we do not have any clear vision or resources to prove that. But after that, after when Harappa civilization we come to play its act, we have some source of information. And though it is a part of proto-history, because this part, say Mehergarh civilization is a part of prehistory, because there is no inscription about it, but we have inscription about Harappa civilization. But unfortunately, as you all know, that it has yet not been deciphered. Deciphered means we have not been understood, able to understood what is written and that text or inscription. I'm talking about Harappan civilization. In Harappan civilization, they have their own inscription, they have their own style of writing, but unfortunately, it has been not deciphered. DECIPHERD. Deciphered means read out. So many texts, many books considered that from 2000. I'm coming back to this. Is it getting clear to all? Better? सबको समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes, sir.
What I am discussing?
Yes, sir.
Please
Yes,
speak
sir.
up.
Yes, sir.
I cannot hear you. Is it clear? Better?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. It is clear.
Okay. Let's move on. So what we are discussing about, if we go to the history, the ancient part of Indian history, generally we find it started from 2500 BC. Now what happened? 2500 BC, it is the mark of start of, it is marked as a start of Harappan civilization. But what I'm trying to say, that long before Harappan civilization, there was another civilization. Some used to say that it was the earliest civilization, or some historian used to say that it was a pre-phase of, it was that Mehergarh civilization. What I'm talking about, that come to beings into 7000 BC to 5000 BC around. That is a part of prehistoric period. And it was a pre-phase of Harappan civilization. So it is very much confusing from where the ancient history was started from. But though we do not have a clear vision about that Mehergarh civilization, that's why the natural textual books we used to read mention that ancient part begins from 2500 BC. It is marked as Harappan civilization. Okay, but we should not forget that before Harappan civilization, there was another civilization which flourished at the time of 7000 BC to 5000 BC, and that civilization is called Mehergarh civilization, and it was the earliest civilization in the Indian history. Okay, is it clear now, beta? All of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, ancient part flourished from 5000 BC. It was, as I told you earlier, mark of Harappa civilization. Now, how long it was continued? Now, some people used to say that it was 711, or some books used to say that it was 712 BC, not BC. It is AD nominal, as you all know that. So, ancient part flourished from 2500 BC to 7011, but I would rather it would be 711 AD, not rather than 712 AD. Okay, so ancient part of Indian history continue from 2500 BC to 711 AD. Now, what happened in 711 AD? There must be something happened, because it is a mark as the beginning of medieval part. Now, medieval part started from 711 AD to somehow part. We are discussing later on it. So, what happened in 711 AD? It was the first Muslim invasion in India. Though it would not be right to call India, because it was Indian subcontinent at that time, because all the parts which is divided right now in Afghanistan, Pakistan were merged together. So it would be better for us to be called as Indian subcontinent. So in 711 AD, first Muslim invasion, INVASION, led by Muhammad bin Qasim. Okay, and that marked the beginning of medieval era. Okay, is it clear to all, beta? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you asked, first of all, you need to know what is the actual part, from which part you are going to discuss, from which session is called medieval part. That's why I'm discussing it, as you are little bit confused about it. That's why I'm discussing it from the very beginning. And so the ancient part is marked from 2500 BC to 711 AD. Okay, and in 711, a man called Muhammad bin Qasim invaded India, and where he had invaded, and at that time there was no way you can come to Indian subcontinent without passing Hindu Kush mountain range. So they, Muhammad bin Qasim, first Muslim who came into India by crossing Hindu Kush Parvatmala and entered the Sindh province at first. Sindh province, now which is right now in Pakistan and in between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Generally, it is now Pakistan, but I don't know how long it would continue to be. But that's another part. So in 700 AD, 711 AD, Muhammad bin Qasim invaded India through from passing through Hindu Kush Parvatmala and first entered in Sindh province, where a Hindu ruler once used to be ruled. His name was Tahir. I'm discussing on. Okay, you need to know this. What happened? Tahir was the Hindu ruler. Tahir. Okay, he used to rule at a small place at Sindh, and he also had a port which is called Debol. Debol was the name of port, okay, at Sindh province. So Dahir was the king of Sindh province at that time, and the port called Debol was in his undership. And now Muhammad bin Qasim attacked on Sindh province. He attacked on Debol and fight with Dahir, okay, and he defeated Dahir, okay. He defeated Dahir, and by this, the first Muslim invention was made by Muhammad bin Qasim was made successful, and he ruled over Sindh province for a few months only, 3 or 4 months, okay. After ruling for 3 or 4 months, where he came from Iraq. Muhammad bin Qasim came from Iraq, and he was the general of Al-Hajjaj. Make it very clear. These are the just normal information I am giving you all. Al-Hajjaj. Al-Hajjaj was the ruler of Iraq who sent Muhammad bin Qasim to Indian subcontinent. Okay. And what happened then? Al-Hajjaj, after being ruled for a few months, Muhammad bin Qasim went back to his reign. He was actually called upon. He called back over there in Iraq. He went there and he was imprisoned for some reason. We do not have clear reason about it, because no books around about it had mentioned about it. So his later life was very painful. I'm talking about Muhammad bin Qasim. He was when he called back to Iraq once again after being ruled here for 3 to 4 months, and then he was imprisoned and literally killed afterwards. So that's the end of Muhammad bin Qasim. But what he is famous for? He was famous for one reason, that was he was the first Muslim invader who invaded to India, and that incident is marked as the beginning of medieval era. Mentioned now in few parts of civil service. When I'm not talking about UPSC, but in few states, it is being asked. The question is already being asked in few states civil service, that which part of Indian territory or Indian subcontinent people were converted in Islam first. This is very important question. In which part of Indian subcontinent people were converted in Muslim first? Okay. So the right answer would be the Sindh province, because when Muhammad bin Qasim invaded India, he converted few people into Islam. So Sindh was the place where few people were converted into Muslim or Islam. Okay. So this is the beginning. This is the beginning of what? This is the beginning of medieval part. Is it clear, beta? Sabko aaya? Samajh mein? Please.
Yes,
Sir.
yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it is going to be just a discussion, but I hope you need to know more conveniently, more conceptually in this part. But today I am just going to discuss what happened and few parts of it that would make your knowledge enriched, and you will get addicted towards the history that is promised. Okay. So first of all, you need to be loved your subject. Then you can learn anything about it. So after the beginning of medieval part, the question is how long it was continued. So there is confusion about it, because some, as I told you, from 700 AD, now it was end by 756, 57. Now there is a confusion because few historians, along with the famous writer, as you know that uh, Romila Thapar, one of the greatest writer of UPSC books history, you know that. So even he mentioned that she mentioned that the medieval part continued from 711 to 700 and 1707 AD. 1707 AD. Why 1707? What happened in that year? That 1707 is marked as the death of Aurangzeb. And who was Aurangzeb? You all know that Aurangzeb was the last influential or powerful Mughal emperor. So few historians, along with some greatest name of Indian history, who recommend the medieval period continue from 711 to 1707 with the death of Aurangzeb. Not the Mughal Empire come to an end, but we all know that Mughal Empire come to an end at 1758 when the last Mughal king Bahadur Shah Jafar was sent to imprison. He was sent for 6 years to Yangon. Okay, Yangon में भेजा गया था उनको. So that is not our discussion right now. Part of discussion. But why I am writing this 1757 while few historians are mentioning the medieval period from 1707 because 1777 is not marked the end of Mughal Empire. It was the end of the last influential Mughal Empire, Aurangzeb, not the Mughal Empire. We all know that the later part of Mughal Empire, which was very much weak, there was lot of emperor who ruled over in India, Mughal emperor who ruled over here, but they were not worthy or they were not so influential as the earliest the rulers of Mughal used to. So that's why, and this 1757 is marked. Why this 1757, 23rd of June, what happened? It took Battle of Plassey. Battle of Plassey took place in 1757, 23rd of June. So after the Battle of Plassey, the East India Company, actually the Britishers means at that time East India Company. East India Company came to India at 1680 as a trader. We all know that they came to India in 1680 as a trader, but after that they took all the things from us literally and they become the administrator. So after the Battle of Plassey, which took place in the 1757, the date is also important, 23rd of June, the whole Bengal, actually they started to flourish their business at the point of Bengal, because Bengal was their main region for trade. And by this battle of after the Battle of Plassey, they got the power of administration almost. Though they seated for Nawab, there was a Nawab, as you all know that after the death of Sirajullah, Mirzapur, his general, become the Nawab, but he was just nominal head. Nominal head. Used to be nominal head. The whole administration was run by East India Company. So they captured the power, the administration and financial power of Bengal and became the actual ruler of Bengal. So that marked the beginning of ruling of East India Company in Indian subcontinent. So this marked as the beginning of what? This marked the beginning of from 1757 and 1711 to 57 is known as what? Is known as medieval period. And from that period, 1757 after 23rd of June, that period till today, what we are living today, actually we are being here in the year of 2021, that part from 1757 to till today is considered the part of modern history, modern part of Indian history. Okay, is it clear to all?
Yes, sir.
So finally, if we sum up the timing, sorry. if we sum up the timing, ancient part, ancient, medieval, and modern. These are the part. So ancient part, 2500 BC to 711 AD. Okay. Medieval is 711 AD to 1757, the Battle of Plassey, and the modern part of Indian history is continued from 1757 to what? It is till today. Okay. So these are the parts: ancient part, modern part, and medieval part. Now another part which is very important from our exam point of view or perspective, that is Indian National Congress, or the part which is called INM, Indian National Movement phase, the phase of Indian National Movement. Now, from which period it's began from? Listen, it is very clear. It's began from 1858. Some people used to say actually they are wrong, totally wrong. It's not about some historian, but some student used to say that the INM starts from 1857, and they are wrong. Why they are wrong? I must tell you. So we must remember that INM, Indian National Movement, is started from 1858 to 1947. Okay. Now, why they say it so? Because they remember that right after 100 years, we already know that 1757 is a mark of Battle of Plassey and beginning of East India Company as an administration in Bengal. And after 100 years, it was 1857. We all know that it was the year of what? The Great Mutiny, that is known as Sipai Mutiny. The Great Revolt actually took place. The Sipai Mutiny. Sipai Mutiny took place in the year of 1857, after 100 years of Battle of Plassey. So some students actually used to say that INM, Indian National Movement, starts from 1857 to 1947. That is actually wrong, because in the year of 1858, what happened? Queen's Proclamation came to India. Queen's Proclamation. What was that? After the end of Sipai Mutiny, which took place in the year of 1857, Queen's Proclamation came to India in 1858, and by that proclamation, the administrative part of East India Company come to an end, and the whole Indian subcontinent was ruled directly under British Parliament in the name of Queen. So what happened after the Queen's Proclamation of 1958? The Indian subcontinent is directly controlled or ruled or administered by British Parliament, not by East India Company. The function of East India Company had came to an end by Queen's Proclamation, and that marked the beginning of new era. Okay, is it clear, beta? Sabko samajh mein aa raha hai?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So Queen's Proclamation is very important. That marked the end of East India Company, rule of East India Company, and British government came to play its act as a ruler, but they used to do so in the name of Her Majesty. Name of Her Majesty means in the name of Queen. In the name of Queen, they used to rule Indian subcontinent. Okay, so from 1858 to the year when we got independence, 1947, that phase or that session is known as Indian National Movement. Okay, Indian struggle for independence. Now, this phase is also divided into few parts. I'm talking about Indian National Movement. It is also divided into few parts. Okay, what is that? What is that? Now, from 1958 to 1885, this phase, near about 27 years. Near about 27 years is known as, near about, right, 27 years, first 27 years from 1858 to 1885 is known as Age of Association. Age of Association. age of association or age of nationalism. Nationalism. Okay. Age of association. So somehow in our question model, we may find it the age of association continue, or they usually ask the phase by which we can understand the age of association. It is very important. From 1858 to 1885, that phase is known as age of association or age of nationalism. What happened in that time? At that time, various organization or association were formed. Why? Because after the Sipai Mutiny, or when the British East India Company, the acts of British East India Company comes to an end, people realize the people of Indian means here, I mean to say those who are rich and belongs to the aristocratic society. They do have their education, because normal people, they were very poor. They were usually literally uneducated. At that time, if you have money, then you can get education. Education was not for all. People used to belong in aristocratic families. Rich people, they got education, and they have time to. They have pretty much spare time. So what they do, they used to assemble themselves and discuss on political matter, and then they realize they need to form few organizations that would demand that would complete their demand, what they are looking for, and somehow if something rest or something left, they would provide them to the common people. So as we cannot say that all the association was related to or for Indians. There were few associations, they worked hard, or they acted very hard for the rights of Indians, but most of the association was being formed at that time for their own convenience, for their own purpose, because they were rich, they were politically very ambitious, they want to become very successful. They used to assemble at one place. They used to discuss on political matters, how they would get more influence, how they would get better beneficiaries from the government. That was their motto. But apart from this, there were few associations. I would mention about it later. They used to fight for the rights of the common Indian people. So overall, we can say there were lots of associations formed at that time, and naturally there are few associations who fight for the common Indians. So that part from 1858 to 1885 is known as age of association or age of nationalism. Okay, clear?
Clear, sir.
Okay. Where are the others? Please speak it out. Speak it up.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
It's
sir.
clear.
Okay. Okay. Very good. So it is very important. Now, next part, as you all know that next part is known as 18. We are differentiated it from other part. 1885 is called the Magna Carta of Indian history. Magna Carta. Now, what is Magna Carta? Magna Carta. You would find this word in various places in Indian history. That's not surprising, actually. Magna Carta means it's a something which is differentiating from other things. It is very important. But what happened in the year of 1885? It's marked the formation of Indian National Congress. That is INC. INC means Indian National Congress. In 1885, the formation of Indian National Congress took place. So it was the mark of Magna Carta, because after, we all know that, we do believe or not, there must be lots of argument about it, but it is true that for our independence, we fought for the INC or Indian National Congress was a major party who fought for it. Indian National Congress was the main party at that time, or largest party at that time, who fought for our independence. So this year, 1885, is very important. It is the mark of the beginning of Indian National Congress. So the formation of Indian National Congress was not a recent issue. We will later discuss on it, how it was the formation of Indian National Congress already took place in the year of 1883. Then in 1884, the Indian National Congress actually formed in the year of 1884, but in the other name. Actual name of Indian National Congress was Indian Union. Indian Union. That was the previous name of Indian National Congress. Indian Union. And that formed in the year of 1884 at Pune. And it was formed by Alan Octavian Hume and William Wedderburn. Wedderburn and Alan Octavian Hume. As you all know that Alan Octavian Hume is called the father of Indian National Congress. So before as our textual books used to say that the formation of Indian National Congress took place in the year of 1885, but the formation started very earlier. It was started in the year of 1883 when the first All India any All India conference took place. In the year of 1883, for the very first time, All India conference took place, and that name was the name of that conference was National Conference, and that National Conference took place at Calcutta at that time. Calcutta in the year of 1883, National Conference took place, and it was led by that National Conference. It was the first All India based, any type of All India based conference, and it was led by a association called Indian Association. I'm just I'm not detailing it. I'm just telling you the story about the formation of Indian National Congress. Background of formation of Indian National Congress. In the year of 1883, for the very first time, All India National Conference took place at Calcutta, and that conference was led by, or was called by, Indian Association. And was the founder of Indian Association? Indian Association formed in the year of, do any one of you know about it? Indian Association? Indian Association, please speak out. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, hear you.
Okay,
Go ahead.
do you know when Indian Association was formed? In which year? Okay, no problem. I'm here, I must tell you. The Indian Association formed in the year of 1876. Indian Association. Okay, Indian Association. I'm just telling you the story, what happened actually at the time. Indian Association formed in the year of 1876, and it was formed by Surendranath Banerjee, S.N. Banerjee, and he was called Rashtraguru, S.N. Banerjee. Okay, Surendranath Banerjee and Anand Mohan Bosu. Two people were very famous about formation of Indian Association. Surendranath Banerjee and Anand Mohan Bosu, they both formed Indian Association at Calcutta. And that association is very much important. They have contributed so much in Indian struggle for existence, or existence you may call it, for the independence. So after the formation of Indian National Congress, they fought for various matters, for the people, for the rights of people. And that's why Surendranath Banerjee is called the first Rashtraguru. Rashtraguru, who is called, in few time in examination, it is being asked various time actually, that who is called Rashtraguru. It was Surendranath Banerjee, because Surendranath Banerjee was the first nationalistic leader, all India based. He was the first leader who was famous in all over India. First nationalistic leader was Surendranath Banerjee. As we all know that, already I told you that first national conference was held at the year of 1883, and who called it? None other than Surendranath Banerjee and Anand Mohan Bosu, because the conference was led by, or called by, whom? Indian Association. Okay, so it was a huge hit. In the year of 1883, the conference, which was called by Indian Association on behalf of Surendranath Banerjee and Anand Mohan Bosu, that conference became so hit that it took the front page. It took the place in front page in almost all newspaper at the time, and that's shaking the government. Government got afraid about it, because the government had already faced Sipahi Mutiny in the year of 1857. They confused. They got afraid actually, but they do not share it. They do not exhibit that they are afraid or they are concerning it. But literally they were they were afraid because it was so hit, and few papers, few journal at that time expressed this news in the front page of their newspaper. So there, that was a great milestone for all of us and mileage for the Indians. So after that, a man called Alan Octavian Hume. Alan Octavian Hume was the secretary of at that time. He was a retired secretary. At that time, he belonged to the department called Revenue and Agriculture and Commerce Department. He was the ex-officer, ex-secretary actually. He was the ex-secretary of the department called Revenue, Agriculture and Commerce Department. He took some initiative. And what was that? He formed a association somewhere. Before that, before 1884, we do not really know about who was Alan Octavian. He had no clue actually what his resignation or designation at that time. He was the secretary of British department we called Revenue, Agriculture and Commerce. But apart from that, we do not have any idea or any information about him that he was a social worker. He used to work for the people. Nothing. All of a sudden, he formed what? He formed in 1884. He formed Indian Union. I already told you, Indian Union is formed in the year of 1884 at Pune by Alan Octavian Hume and William Wedderburn. They both formed Indian Union. All of a sudden. Now, where they came from? Obviously, the question arises. The person who belongs to the secretary level officer in British government, why he was why he indulged himself for the people of India? There is a question. Obviously, we do have a question about it. So there, after that very year, after 1884, in 1885, that Indian Union renamed as Indian National Congress. Indian National Congress. And we all know that, as I already told you, that Indian National Congress is founded by Alan Octavian Hume, William Wedderburn, and some Indians. They were also involved in that, like Umesh Chandra Banerjee. Later on, Surendranath Banerjee, the Rashtriya Guru, he joined Indian Association. He was the founder of Indian Association. Later joined with INC, and the whole Indian Association was merged with Indian National Congress. But the question we do have still today, matlab, I am asking you that what was the necessary at that time? A person like Alan Octavian Hume, who was by born a Britisher, who used to be a secretary level officer, what was his motto to become in politics and formed a union or association named Indian Union? So there is something fishy about it. Is it not? What do you think? Getting it?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So there are few theories. Now, this is very interesting. What we are going to discuss, we already know that Indian National Congress formed in the year of 1885. Now, there are two theories. There are two theories about the formation of Indian National Congress. That is, one is conspiracy theory. Conspiracy, and another is nationalistic theory. Conspiracy theory. What is that? As I've told you, the one man, British, that is Alan Octavian Hume, and both actually William Wedderburn, they took the initiative and formed Indian Union, and later that renamed as Indian National Congress. And why they did form that? Some people, especially Lala Lajpat Rai, very important, Lala Lajpat Rai, in the year of 1916, he mentioned about this conspiracy theory. What did he say? He said the formation of Indian National Congress was a conspiracy. Conspiracy between whom? Conspiracy between the founder Alan Octavian Hume and then the Viceroy of India, Lord Dufferin. So when the Indian National Congress took place, formation of Indian National Congress took place, the Viceroy of India was Lord Dufferin. So Lala Lajpat Rai directly alleged or mentioned about the conspiratorial theory. By this theory, he mentioned that in the year of 1960, remember this, this is very important, and the first man who propounded the theory, conspiratorial theory or conspiracy theory about the formation of Indian National Congress was Lala Lajpat Rai. He said the formation of Indian National Congress was the conspiracy between then Viceroy of India Lord Dufferin and between Alan Octavian. Okay, but some people, so it was later the conspiracy theory about the formation of Indian National Congress first raised by Lala Lajpat Rai, and later it was theoretically proved by whom? It was theoretically proved by one minute. It was theoretically proved by whom? That is Rajani Pam Datta. Rajani Pam Datta. After 25 years, 1941, he theoretically proved that there were a lot of information, there was a lot of he collected so much resources, and by collecting this, after collecting this, he made a theory official that what Lala Lajpat Rai said in the year of 1916 was absolutely right, and that theory is known as conspiracy theory of formation of Indian National Congress. Okay, is it clear to all?
Yes, sir.
Any questions about this? You are not asking any question to me. That is not good actually. You must participate with the session. This is not a teaching session. This is about discussion. If you are preparing for any sort of civil service examination, what you need to know at first that only by studying lots of books it would not help you. What you need to know, what you need to do, you must take a part in discussion. And in my class, there will be a lot of discussion. Discussion is the main thing you need to know. By reading any type of books, we cannot remember it for a long time. But if you take discussion, do listen to any story about or do discuss, that will remain for a long time in our memory. Please speak out.
Actually, sir, I have missed some of the parts which you have. I have joined 5 minutes before. Actually, due to some network.
You have entered the class 5 minutes before.
Yes, sir. Because there was some network issue.
Okay. That is possible. No problem. No issue. I will after having this class at the end, I will gist up what we have discussed about. Okay. So, but other students, what you are saying, who are being from the very beginning, please tell me any issues, any problems, any question about it, please. No issues. How many of you are there? Okay.
No, sir.
Okay.
No issues.
Okay. Very good.
No, sir.
Okay. So I can assume that all of you are getting my point, what I am trying to say. Okay. Is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Very good.
Yes. Yes, sir.
So we come to know about conspiratorial theory or conspiracy theory, which was raised by first Lala Lajpat Rai in the year of 1916. The year is also important because it is being asked already. Okay, and it was firmly proven by Rajani Pam Datta later in the year of 1941. Now it is conspiracy theory. Now what is nationalistic theory? Nationalistic theory, the people who were associated with INC, Indian National Congress, from the very beginning, they used to say that no, there is nothing like that. There were no conspiracy between us and Viceroy. It was just formed to help the Indian people. This association was made or built up to help the normal people. There is nothing like that conspiracy. It is normal, quite normal. So they supported the nationality. National. What does national means? National means it is for the people. It is for the India. This association is dedicated to the Indians. They will fight for the common people of Indians, and they support that theory that is called nationalistic theory. So naturally, जो लोग इसके साथ जुड़े हुए थे, the followers, the founder members like Alan Octavian Hume, William Wedderburn, not Lala Lajpat Rai, Mukesh Chandra Banerjee, Surendranath Banerjee, the first early phase, those who belongs to the early phase of Indian National Congress were all supporters of nationalistic theory. They used to believe this organization is only built up only to help the Indians. Nothing, no other issues were there. Okay. So there are two types of theory: conspiracy theory and nationalistic theory. Now, after the formation of Indian National Congress, what happened? After the formation of Indian National Congress, it took place in the year of 1885. We already discussed about it. Now, the whole struggle, the whole responsibility for Indian struggle actually taken by Indian National Congress. Because after forming Indian National Congress, there were a lot of small organizations. Small, they were usually literally be called small because they were nowhere close to as big as Indian National Congress, but there are a few small associations. They also work hard for our independence. They struggled for our struggle, but their contribution is not so high as INC, Indian National Congress. This is for sure. Okay. So after the formation of 1885, the first 20 years, that is from 1905, that is 20 years, first 20 years of Indian National Congress is known as what? That is moderate phase. Moderate phase. Moderate phase. Okay. So first 20 years from 1885 to 1905, that 20 years is known as moderate phase. Now, why it is moderate phase? Who were moderates? Moderates were the people who used to believe that the Britishers were from higher races. They used to believe that the Britishers from higher races, and we are actually fortunate enough to get ruled by them. This is peculiar thinking by today's point of view, but at that time they used to believe, they who were moderates, they used to believe that we are lucky enough, we are fortunate enough that we are being ruled by the higher races like Britishers. That we need to know a lot of things, we can learn from a lot of things because they are from higher races, they have qualification, they literally follow them. They literally follow them. In all matters, they literally follow them. They used to follow PPP model. Now, this is very important. What was that PPP model? P for PT, PT. P for PT. P for petition. And P for protest. Okay. These PPP model they used to follow. PT, they do not demand anything. Instead of demanding, they used to show pity. Please have a look on it. Please have it. What we are saying, please look after us. This type of situation, they used to believe that. They used to act like that to British government. Okay. Pity. Petition, they used to write about what they are wanting. They used to write and present it to the government with request, not with any sort of demanding character, but with request. They used to write it down to the government, present it to the government. Please look after what we are looking after, what we are demanding. They do not even mention the word demand. Okay. And protest, if they do not succeed, then they will protest. They do not protest. They do not march at the road. What they do, they used to call for a debate competition in the association, in a particular house. They used to talk about a lot, protest in a house, not to the government. So what they did actually, they did not force the government to do anything. They just literally helpless. They looked by appearing this sort of activities. They are looking helpless. If we do discuss about this, they are looking helpless, hopeless. They are hoping that British government. Please tell me what you were saying.
Sir, can you explain again what is the moderate phase?
moderate phase, matlab there were some people they do follow the PPP model. PPP model means petition protest. They do not demand anything from British government directly. What they do,
Okay.
they used to request to them, please look after this. This is our request. Please have a look after it. They never think like that this is our country. They are invaders. They are invaders invading at us and ruling over us. But instead of thinking like that, they used to think that Britishers are from the higher races. They are very superior, and we are actually fortunate enough. We are fortunate enough by getting ruled by them. This type of thinking they used to possess. That's why they are called moderate phase, the moderate leaders of Indian National Congress. Who are they? Surendranath Banerjee, Umesh Chandra Banerjee, Baidyuddin Taibji, Dadabhai Naoroji. Dadabhai Naoroji used to be the greatest leader at the moderate phase. Dadabhai Naoroji, he is known as the Grand Old Man of India. This is very common question. Who is known as Grand Old Man of India? That is Dadabhai Naoroji. Dadabhai Naoroji even himself was the greatest leader at that time in moderate phase. Even he declared at the year of 1886, when a annual session of Indian National Congress took place at Calcutta, what he declared, and he was the president at the session. In 1885, there was a session at Calcutta took place of INC, Indian National Congress, and he became the president. Dadabhai Naoroji became the president of this session, and he declared that we are loyal to the backbone. This was the declaration made to the government. We are loyal to the backbone. Matlab, you don't think that we are against you. We are with you. We are for you. This type of mentality they used to possess. So you can understand they are processing, they are thinking, and that's why they are known as moderate leaders. And that 20 years from 1885 to 1905, that phase or that session is known as moderate phase of Indian National Congress. Okay, is it clear to all?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now after that, after having end of this session, matlab from 1905 to 1907, that period was known as extremist phase. Extremist phase. Extremist phase means there were few people who shone against the government and few there and show their hesitation, show their temperament against the government. They literally chided matlab criticize karna. They criticize government for what they are doing for. They demanded for the rights of India. They are known as extremists. They do not believe in PPP model. They believe India is for Indians, and they completely believe that the Britishers are the invaders. They do not have any rights to rule over us. We need what type of free thinking, free type of government. They used to believe like that, and they are called extremist leaders. And in our board exam, we used to know about them. That was Lal Bal Pal. Lal Pal Lal Bal Pal. These three were the most prominent among the extremist leaders. There were a lot of extremist leaders later arose, but among them, Lal Bal Pal was most prominent. Lal means Lala Lajpat Rai, definitely one of the Punjab Keshri, okay? One of the most prominent leader of Indian history. So he was also known as extremist leader. Pal means Bipin Chandra Pal, and Bal means Bal Gangadhar Tilak. So these were the most prominent leader who rose against the British government and show their mentality that they are not supporting the moderate by any means, that they want a free India. Free India means there is a lot of difference actually. Free India means they were the supporter of Swaraj. Is it clear? Is it clear to all? Then we are moving ahead.
Yes,
Is
sir.
it clear? Okay. Now What was the
Yes,
difference?
sir.
What was the main difference between moderate and extremist? This is very important because when you are studying for UPSC, you need to know the concept actually. Conceptual question is there. So as you all know that the basic difference between moderate and extremist was of thinking, of way of thinking. Well, while the moderates used to show their so their uh, so their loyalty to the government, the other extremists, they were very much aggressive. They do not believe such things, that they used to believe that this is India and we are the actually native people and we must not be ruled by other by any means, so by any means. So but actually the differences were from other point of view, because not only they are thinking, later on they are the working procedure take a new words actually. We will discuss on it, but later on I must consider. We already read that from 1957 to 1905 to 1917, this phase is known as extremist phase. Okay, and now from 1957 to 1939, this phase, the next phase, from 1917 to 1939, this phase is known as Gandhian phase. Gandhian phase. Now this is very important. Gandhian phase, because we all know that in the year of 1970, by Champaran Satyagraha, Champaran is in Bihar, by taking place in Champaran Satyagraha, Gandhiji arrived in active politics, in the world of active politics. So though Gandhiji came back to India in 1915 in 9th January from South Africa, January, Gandhiji went to South Africa in the year of 1893. These are the information you need to know. Gandhiji went to South Africa for practicing his legal service. What he was an advocate actually. Later he became barrister. He once went to London and came back in 1891. And after who returned from London, he used to known as barrister. So he was a barrister, and he went to South Africa in the year of 1893, South Africa, for his legal practice actually. And finally, he also came back in India in 1901, which very few of us know about it. He came back in India in 1901 for a while, and then went back to 1902 with his wife, Kasturba Bai. He took his wife Kasturba Bai with him in the year of 1902, and finally, in the year of 1915, on 9th of January, he came back to India finally. Okay, and that day is very special because in 9th of January, we discuss as what? NRI Day. NRI Day. And 9th January is we celebrate as NRI Day. Okay. So, but after returning, though he returned in the year of 1915, later in 1917, for the first time, Gandhiji arrived in the world of active politics. By where? From where? From it was Champaran. Champaran is in Bihar. So we are not discussing today on Gandhiji's life and his all other activities, greatest movement. We are not discussing a bit because it would take a lot of time actually. What we are discussing from 1917 to 1939, this phase is known as what? This phase is known as Gandhian phase. Okay, age of Gandhiji. Now, some people, or I'm wondering that none of you are asking me, why, sir? Why you are mentioning 1939? Sir, I read out that Quit India movement took place in the year of 1942. Quit India movement took place in 1942, and the leader of that movement was Gandhiji. Then why you are saying, sir, that Gandhian phase existed from 1917 to 1939? It should be from 1970 to 1942. Is it not? What do you think? Speak out.
Sir, because he actually participated for the removal of British from the Quit India movement only.
Yes, what I am trying to say that Gandhiji was the leader of Quit India movement. There is no doubt. His slogan "Do or Die" was very famous. He was he led the Quit India movement. But we are here studying that the Gandhian phase in Indian history existed from 1970 to 1939. How was it possible? If Quit India movement who led it, actually what happened from 1970 to 1939, this is the phase of Gandhiji when he rose to the prominence at the top. But after 1939, this year is very important because in this year, 1939, he was defeated by Subhash Chandra Bose. Subhash Chandra Bose in the election, though he was not directly defeated, make it very clear. In the year of 1939, there was the first time there was an election for the president for INC, Indian National Congress. There was a selection process actually. Indian National Congress, the president of Indian National Congress previously was not elected, they were selected. Some core committee used to say that in this very session he or she would be the president. That's how the president of Indian National Congress used to be selected, not elected. But in the year of 1939, for the very first time, the election for president was took place, and Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was the candidate, and Gandhiji was totally against it. He never wanted the procedure of election. He always supported the procedure of selection. And he said, if Subhash stand against this, I will nominate a person from my point of view. And actually he did. He nominated Pattabhi Sitaramaiah against whom? Against Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Pattabhi Sitaramaiah and Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose fought for presidency of INC in the year of 1939. So, on behalf of Gandhiji, Pattabhi Sitaramaiah fought for, but unfortunately, Pattabhi Sitaramaiah lost or defeated by a huge margin, 203 votes. 203 votes. Means Subhash Chandra Bose defeated Pattabhi Sitaramaiah in INC session of Tripuri Congress by the margin of 203 votes, and thus the influence, the power that possessed by Gandhiji in Indian National Congress was come to an end. After that, we all know that Subhash Chandra Bose left Indian National Congress and formed his own organization or association called what was it? Was Forward Bloc in the year of 1939, and Gandhiji later declared that in the year of 1940, he later declared that Jawaharlal Nehru would be his successor in the year of 1940, and by the year of 1940s, after the year of 1940s, in the decade of 1940s, Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, these people took all the powers of Indian National Congress. Actually, the Gandhiji became very powerless after the loss to Subhash Chandra Bose. Though he did not participate against Subhash Chandra Bose directly, but he nominated Pattabhi Sitaramaiah to fight against Subhash Chandra Bose, which was later he also declared that the loss of Pattabhi Sitaramaiah was actually my defeat. So you can imagine, even the greatest leader of India at that time, even today, is declaring that my defeat is the word. That is, he was defeated actually by, indirectly, though it was indirectly, by Subhash Chandra Bose. And all of his, not credentials, his credentials is not gone like that, but all of his influence, his power was literally lessened after that incident. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. So that 1939 is very important in Indian history. So after this session, we can say that from 1939, we already, from 17 to 1939, that phase is known as Age of Gandhian phase, sorry. And after that, from 1939 to 1947, that phase is marked as what? 1939 to 1947, that phase is known as complete independence, the phase of complete independence. Because there was no choice for Indians without being go for complete independence. They have only one option to complete independence. Though Subhash Chandra Bose, make it very clear, Subhash Chandra Bose, when he became the president of Indian National Congress in the 1938 for the first time, he mentioned that we must go for a mass revolution to get our independence as early. Very important point I am mentioning about, when the Subhash Chandra Bose in 1938 became the president of India, Indian National Congress, he mentioned very clearly that the situation of the world is very concerning. It is because we all know that from 1939 to 1945, the Second World War took place. From 1939, 1945, 15th of August, and the Second World War took place. So when Subhash Chandra Bose became the president of INC, he clearly declared or stated that we need to pressurize British government, because the situation of world is getting grave day by day. The aggressive policies of Germany are afraiding the Britishers. So if we do go for the mass revolution, the government would have no choice to provide us the independence. But Gandhiji did not agree with him. He actually realized that the government is in trouble right now, because they are facing the pressure from international basis. So if we do indulge ourselves in great revolution or mass revolution in Indian territory, that would be considered as a non-violence. Not violence. That would be considered as non-violence. If we go for the mass revolution at the time when the government are facing pressurized from international issues, and we do irritate them by doing agitation or movement over in India, that would be considered as violent. That was the thinking he possessed. So it was a clear diversion of thinking from, it is clear the diversion of thinking of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, the way he thinks, and the Gandhiji, the way of he thinks. It was a huge gap, actually wide gap. Later on, Gandhiji went for a mass revolution, but it was too late. When Subhash Chandra Bose completely urging for mass revolution in the year of 39, when he became the first elective member of Indian National Congress, he continuously urged for mass revolution to get independence, but Gandhiji and his fellow followers did not accept the theory. Afterwards they literally went for mass revolution in the year of 1942, very long after 1939, 3 years after. They went for mass revolution, and that Quit India movement became very successful, as you all know that. But what happened if we do listen to the Netaji when he said go for mass revolution in the year of 39? I believe, not only me, I'm very man of straw actually, but the historians, those who are explaining it or studying it, they used to say that if we at that time we converted mass revolution at that time, literally we will get the independence at the end of Second World War. That means we got independence in the year of 1947, but instead of that, we would get independence in the year of 1945. So we would able to avoid the violence riots that took place Hindu-Muslim in the year of violent riots in the year of 1946. The Great Calcutta killing, that would all be avoided, could be avoided, if we do listen to Gandhiji at that time. But it was complete way of thinking. When you are studying, I always used to speak to tell my students that history is not about only studying. When you are studying modern history, you need to analyze the psychological order of the leaders at that time. You need to study Gandhiji as well as Netaji and their thoughts, their differences, what were the differences between them. Also, not only with Gandhiji and Netaji, but also Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founder of Pakistan. Okay? So we need to also analyze him, Sir Syed Ahmed Khan. These are the all you need to know. These about story. It's about learning stories. More you learn, more you be able to get more number. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it was very clear that Indian national movement from 1800 and Indian national movement from 1800. If we sum up the story from 1858 to 1947, the INM phase, we can divide it into what? There are from 1858 to 1885 is known as Age of Association or Age of Nationalism. Then the formation year of Indian National Congress. Then the first 20 years, 1885 to 1905. These 20 years is known as phase of moderates. Then from 1905 to 1917, this phase is known as phase of extremist phase of Indian National Congress. Then the arrival of Gandhiji in the Indian politics, in the territory of Indian politics from 1917 to 1939. And finally, we have what? We have from 1939 to 1947. This phase is known as the phase of complete independence. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? Please ask me. Do you have any questions about it?
No, sir.
Okay. Then come to it. There are only 4 people. Okay. Antara, can you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If there is any question, please ask me. Okay. Because actually, what happened in online classes, I do not know what you are doing. Actually, you are not. If you are not or paying attention on it or not. If somehow, who later joined in the class? Abhijit.
Sir, Abhijit.
Abhijit. Okay. From where you attended my class? From which portion you got informed?
Sir, I attended from the moderate phase.
Moderate phase. Okay. So you asked me who are moderates. Is it?
Yeah,
I cleared to
yes,
you.
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we already after 1885 we discussed that phase. That is from 1858 to 1885. That phase is known as Age of Association. Age of Association, because there were so much associations formed at that time. Because after Sipai Mutiny, which took place in the year of the Great Revolt, which is known as Sipai Mutiny, 1857, the administrative part of East India Company come to an end by 1858. Sipai Mutiny took place in the year of 1857, and in 1858, Queen's Proclamation took place. Queen's Proclamation means by that proclamation, the function of East India Company in the sector of administrative came to an end, and East India and British government took the full power of Indian subcontinent under the name of Queen in their hand. Okay. So from 1858 to 1858 to 85, this phase, there were a lot of association formed. Few were formed to help or to provide the rights to the Indian, but most of them were formed to look after his own business. Actually, at that time, I already told you, only I do not mention the percentage. Actually, only 8 to 9% Indian at that time were educated, and most of them are from rich aristocrat families. They do not have any tension about what will happen them to in future, because they are very rich, and they used to go London for their further studies. They have a lot of spare time. So what they do, they used to gather themselves. They used to discuss about political matters. They do not have actually the intensity to help the poor or in common Indian people. But what they did, they used to assemble to get their own influential, to get the good touch with the government, and obviously to get their own business run. So that was the motive. But apart from that, there were few organizations that was formed to fight for the rights of the Indian. Obviously, there are a few names, and I mentioned one of them was Indian Association. Indian Association was formed in the year of 1876 by Surendranath Banerjee and Anand Mohan Bosu. And this organization, that organization, fight for many issues and for the Indians. We will discuss on it in my later class. But so apart from this type of organization, for the very first time, the nationalistic concept rose in the mind of Indians. So that's why this phase from 1858 to 1885 is not only known as age of association, but also what? Also the age of nationalism. Okay, and 1885 is a very important year. That is that year with the INC, that means Indian National Congress, was formed. Now I told them about nationalistic theory and conspiracy theory. Is it what the other is speaking about? The theory.
What, sir? Can you repeat, sir?
Now, I just asked you that I discussed about the conspiracy theory and nationalistic theory, and all of you cleared it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, conspiracy theory, when the Indian National Congress was formed, one man, that is Allan Octavian Hume, who is known as the father of Indian National Congress, and William Wedderburn, they took initiative and formed Indian National Congress. And later, Lala Lajpat Rai, he alleged that the formation of Indian National Congress, actually the conspiracy between two persons, that Allan Octavian Hume, who previously was the secretary of a department called Revenue, Agriculture and Commerce, and then Viceroy, that was Lord Dufferin. So Lala Lajpat Rai clearly declared that the formation of Indian National Congress was the conspiracy between Allan Octavian Hume, and Lord Dufferin, and few others who were associated from the very beginning with INC. They used to say that nothing like that. There is no part of conspiracy. The Indian National Congress was formed only to help the poor or the common people. They wanted to fight for the rights of the Indians. That's why they simply denied the conspiracy theory and they supported the nationalistic theory. So these are the two theories: nationalistic theory and conspiracy theory was provocated by later the historians, and these theories we need to know about. Later, the first 20 years, I already told you, from 1885 to 1905, these 20 years is known as moderate phase. That means I already told you who were moderates, how they acted against the British government. They were actually followers. They do not have the, I do not say they do not have the guts, but they do not have the perception to go against the government, actually. Even I told you that the greatest leader of that time in moderate phase was Dadabhai Naoroji. He was a Persian, actually. He declared that we are loyal to the backbone. That means they are clearly stating that, they are clearly showing that we are loyal to the government. Nothing, we are going to do nothing against the government. Okay, so this is how the phase will go on, and you all know that. I must share one thing, that Dadabhai Naoroji. I told you that Dadabhai Naoroji, Dadabhai Naoroji is known as Grand Old Man of India, and William Gladstone, that man, William Gladstone. He was a British Prime Minister once used to be the British Prime Minister. William Gladstone is known as Grand Old Man of Britain. Now this is very important. Grand Old Man of India is called Dadabhai Naoroji, and Grand Old Man of Britain is called by whom? To whom? is named after William Gladstone. And William Gladstone, why he called so? Because William Gladstone, in the year of 1983, he sent Dadabhai Naoroji to the British Parliament. Very important. In the year of 1893, at that time, William Gladstone was the Prime Minister of Britain, and he was from Liberal Party. Very important. This is also asked. William Gladstone belongs to which party? William Gladstone belongs to Liberal Party, and he was the Prime Minister at that time. And in the year of 1893, he sent Dadabhai Naoroji in the British Parliament as a representative. Okay. So Dadabhai Naoroji represented British Parliament in the year of 1893 from the Liberal Party. At that time, the Prime Minister of Britain was William Gladstone, and William Gladstone is known as Grand Old Man of Britain, while the Dadabhai Naoroji is known as Grand Old Man of India. This is very important, and Dadabhai Naoroji was the first unofficial ambassador from India to British Parliament. This is also very important. First unofficial ambassador from India to British Parliament was Dadabhai Naoroji. Okay, is it clear to all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
These are the information.
Yes, sir.
These are the information you need to know and you need to remember at any cost. Okay, and if you study about Dadabhai Naoroji, I must share some important facts about him. I already told you that the Congress was divided into two parts. That is moderate and extremist. Sorry, extremist. Two parts. And the split, remember this, and the split between moderate and extremist took place. Split means diversion. The final diversion or final split between moderate and extremist took place in the year of 1907. 1907 at INC session, Indian National Congress session took place at Surat, which is in Gujarat. Surat. So in 907 at Surat session of INC, Indian National Congress, the split between moderate and extremists took place. But the splitting, but the perception of differences between moderate and extremists took year before. Actually, in the year of 1905, that year is known for the partition of Bengal. Partition of Bengal. Sorry. Partition of Bengal. Now, partition of Bengal took place in the year of 905, though it did not came to be successful, but it was declared. The partition of Bengal was declared on 905 of 16th October. Very important. The date is very important. 1905 on 16th October, the partition of Bengal was declared, and from that point of view, and from that time, the diversion between moderate and extremist actually took place. The way of processing of thinking, the concept between moderate and extremists took a huge gap or took a huge margin at that time, because you come to know that all of you maybe know that when Bengal partition was declared, the people of Bengal took a huge agitation or protest against it, and the Swadeshi movement was on. Swadeshi movement was initiated. Swadeshi movement was initiated by people of Bengal in the year of 1905. And what was the purpose of Swadeshi movement? The purpose of Swadeshi movement was to show their anger, agitation against the government, against this type of tyrannic decision by splitting the whole Bengal into two parts. Actually, there was a political reason. I will discuss on it. And what was the reason between the diversion between moderate and extremists was Swadeshi movement. What was the concept of Swadeshi movement? In Swadeshi movement, they used to boycott. Boycott means rejection. They used to boycott the materials, the amenities that is provided by the British. They used to bring their own things like kurtas, clothes. They used to made up by them. Education system. They do not wanted the education system provided by the government. They started their own education system. The people of Bengal started their own education system. The people of Bengal used to build up their own mills, karkhanas, etc. And the whole situation, the whole movement was led by the famous leaders like S.N. Banerjee and others great leaders. So the Swadeshi movement means one type of boycott. Boycott to whom? Boycott to the British government. They do not take any help from the British government. They will form their own statistics, own basis actually. And that movement is known as Swadeshi movement. Now, the moderates, the extremists wanted to spread this Swadeshi movement to all over India. All over India means the Swadeshi movement took place in which place? In Bengal, because the partition of Bengal took place only in Bengal. But the Swadeshi movement, that was the boycott, from the provision of boycott, what extremists wanted to spread the Swadeshi movement to all over India. But moderates, they do not believe in such theories. They believe that the partition of Bengal is taking place, was taking place only in Bengal. So the Swadeshi movement must be stay on only in Bengal. So that was the reason from where the thinking of the way of thinking moderate and extremist first diverges. Secondly, the concept, the perception about Swaraj. Swaraj means Swaraj in moderate. The moderate used to think that the word Swaraj means, they used to think like that the government, the British government will rule over us, and we will provide the power, and under their ownership or under their ruling, we will rule India. That was the thing. Like in today's autonomous system like Panchayat corporation, like today's. What happened? The Panchayat and municipality are totally under state governments. State government funded them, but they ruled or they administered in their own way. That is called autonomous system. By Swaraj, the moderate used to think like that. Above all, the British government will help us, and we will run the machinery. We will run the administration by our own way. That is called Swaraj, and that Swaraj means to moderate. But on the other contrary to this, extremists, they do believe that Swaraj means totally independence. They do not want any other invaders to rule over us by any means. Extremists, they understand Swaraj means total independence. And moderate, they do not actually possess the concept of total independence. It was just absurd idea to them. They just think that the government, British government, will stay over us, and we will take advices, instruction from them, and we will run our administration on my own way. So the diversion between actual split between moderate and extremist took place from 1905 onwards, and that finally came to the incident that splitted moderate and extremist in the year of 1907. But it would take place in the year of 1906 actually. The split between moderate and extremist, what we are studying today, that is Surat split, took place in the year of 1907. It would take place in the way after a year back in 1906. If at that session of INC in 1906, that session of INC, Indian National Congress, took place in Calcutta, and that session was presided by Dadabhai Naoroji. Now, Dadabhai Naoroji was such type of leader who was respected by all type of groups. Like moderate, he was the leader from moderates actually. He believed in PPP model, but in extremist people, but leaders of extremists also regarded him as a leader. Very respectable person he was. So it is said that if Dadabhai Naoroji was not to be the president of Calcutta session of 1906, the split between moderate and extremist actually would take place in 1906 instead of 1907. So it was Dadabhai Naoroji and his charismatic character that patched up moderate and extremist, but after 1 year, in the year of 1977, the moderate and extremists were virtually split it. So that was the character of Dadabhai Naoroji. He was a great person, but only one drawback, which was actually very faulty about him, was his perception. If he would not be a moderate leader, he would be a extremist leader, then he will rise to the Indian history more prominently. Okay, is it clear, dears, to all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully, this is that's why I am ending my session today. Hopefully, this session is supporting very well to all of you, and you will get enriched by some knowledge provided by me. I don't know how it would help you, but naturally, but basically what I told you earlier, that in my session, there will be a lot of discussion. We will raise a point and the discussion will go on. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
So we will have the end over here, and in our next session, we will must come and discuss a lot of it. Okay.